Hello everybody, and welcome to ZookaMan Streaming, where I get you and your replays to be casted for my entertainment, and hopefully to help you improve a little bit as well. I'm your host, ZookaMan, and we're going to be going into a TVZ. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our players. In the top, I'd say about the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock-ish position, we have Justice, starting as the red Zerg player on the map. Heavy Rain, which I seem to be doing a lot of lately. Anyways, his opponent on the opposite side of the map, we see theWalrus from the clan Eyepiece GCI, and I have no idea what that stands for, so maybe someone can enlighten me in the comments below after this cast gets uploaded and all that fun jazz. With the TVZ matchup, there's two popular strategies in ZVT, as in most Zerg matchups. One of them being the Zergling Muta composition with Banglings added in the early mid-game, sometimes even to the late game depending upon what your opponent's doing. And then you have the Roach Hydra build into Ultralisks eventually later into the game. Or I've also seen players or Zerg players doing a kind of an interesting sort of swarm host build into the Muta and Broodlord and Corruptor and all the fun stuff that you tend to like to have with Air Zerg. So it kind of depends on what Walrus is wanting to do here to see exactly what's going to going on for him. He's going to be going for a little bit later of a refinery there. I mean, either we're going to be seeing a lot of early Marines or we're going to be seeing an early expansion. One of those two. Speaking of which, Justice is going to be going into an early expansion, just now grabbing his pool. Fantasy dancing on that fact, not grabbing his gas yet, so he's not really too inclined to get a Madblock boost out really early. He's going to be getting his gas now, so that will be coming up fairly well. It's going to come up pretty standard, but isn't going to be insanely early, which means that he's going to probably be playing more passive, well, maybe not passive, more macro than a all-in or cheese or anything along those lines. Zerg's Overlord is gonna actually not get killed there because might be able to. Can he get that? Ah, man, be a good pickup if he could. Meanwhile, we have Walrus going for his command center in his main base, which is kind of going back to that refinery not being taken. Now going to be going up on double refinery. It makes me think that he's going to probably be wanting to go into factory tech fairly shortly here. Zerg player is going to be going up on his natural expansion right about now. Going to be going for the Queens and is going to start droning up his natural expansion. Not really a whole lot out there, only about 4 coming out, but the Queens haven't hit the map, so you don't have a lot of larva injects and the such for a Zerg player. Meanwhile, Magbob boost has just started for Justice, and he does have a Spine Crawler on the way for extra defense back in that natural. But it doesn't look like, from what we see from the Walrus, that we're going to get to worry about any sort of early pressure. Actually, we're even going to be seeing him go up onto 3rd command center here before even taking his factory, which is a little bit odd, to be perfectly honest. I would much rather see at least the factory laid down before we see the 3rd CC, on the grounds that it's not really going to help him all that much. Then again, it is just going to now be coming down at that quarter mark for the command center, so it's not really that big of a deal, but I would have liked to see it a little bit earlier, just in case Justice were doing something that would require him to get Hellions out a tad bit earlier, like a very heavy Ling play. Indeed. Meanwhile, a Zerg player is going to be pretty much just macroing up here. He's going to get actually supply blocked here from the Overlord getting hot out with these Marines. Natural expansion has been set down and established from the Walrus. He's now going to be adding on a bunker just to help out with that extra defense. But neither player are really looking like they want to be doing any sort of really early aggression here. So we're going to be seeing a more macro-centric game between these two players, which is all fine and dandy. In fact, sometimes I do enjoy macro games a little bit better. Meanwhile, we are seeing a start port going to be added on for our Terran player at this point. And I'm going to guess probably we're going to be seeing medevacs out of that. We could also technically be seeing like Banshees or even Vikings at this point, but there's not really a tech lab out on the field to switch around with it, so if he's going to be going for a tech lab, he's going to have to start that up. And it is indeed going to be a tech lab, which does indicate probably Banshees. That would be my best guess. We might also be seeing Ravens. Either or is a perfectly acceptable way to go. So we're going to be seeing Walrus added down in addition a couple of armories, wherever that is. Oh, there they are. Armories are going to be coming out in the back of the main base. So we are going to be seeing a mech-centric build, and not just seeing a Banshee Hellion into like late game bio, which is a good thing to note. Justice is going to be finishing up on his lair. He does have that those evo chambers starting up now as well for upgrades. And Walrus having out one Banshee here, but does not have his cloak started or even done yet, so it doesn't really look like he's wanting to commit too much to the Banshees. Might be just wanting to put those out there to get a few drone kills in the natural or in the main, and try to get a little bit of damage. They also could be kind of an accent to his army. This early in the game, I wouldn't necessarily like having them just kind of sit around, but they would be a good unit to have in a mid to late game army, depending on what your opponent's doing. Like, if your opponent's going for a large number of storm hosts, Banshees are always a good idea, as long as you have the AoE to be able to hold off the Lotusts. I think that's how you say it. Lotusi? Something like that. Meanwhile, we see our Zerg player going up on Aspire Tech. That's about now finished at this point. While we see our Terran player grabbing an additional couple of factories, and is going to be going on to his 1-1 off of those armories. He's going to have some Hellbats added onto the army as well. Does have barracks just kind of floating around here. Does kind of need to get that to the point where he can land it, because that's going to be extremely awkward. Anyway, we're seeing a drop of a single Marine going to be going down against this double expansion here. That is going to be pretty much taken care of by those queens, but he is going to scout those are up, and is going to say probably not a good idea. The Zerg set player, I really like the expansions and dropping them at this point, because of the fact that the Mutalisks are just now about to hit the field. Yes, the Walrus has a Thor on the way, but that's the key thing here, guys. It's on the way. So he's going to have to hold off until he can get that Thor on the field, or maybe a couple of Thors on the field, with how many Mutalisks are out on the map, to be able to really shut down this push. That being said, Justice is going to be able to get a little bit of damage done here, so he's going to have to do as much damage as he possibly can. Here comes the Mutas coming into that natural expansion. They're going to be dissuaded by a few missile turrets here, but there are more than enough Mutalisks to take on this missile turret, and probably this other one. They're going to be going into the natural, and going to be getting quite a few SCV kills, and then flying out as soon as that Thor starts popping up, going to that third base. Are going to get under fire by that missile turret, and they are going to get the barracks just flying there, which, kind of curious why Walrus still has that up there, to be perfectly honest. Banshee Loke is now going to be researched for the Walrus, as well as a huge round of drones coming out from Justice, who is really doing a good job here of keeping his opponent kind of on his back foot while he takes these double expansions. Because of the fact that those Mutalisks hit his field right as he was taking those expansions, the Terran player didn't feel comfortable to really move out and try to deny that. So, he did a really good move there, coupling the Mutalisks with those expansions to get his opponent to be a little bit less... oh, hey, that guy got an expansion. 15 creep troopers are going to be coming up on the way, so creep is spreading like mad, guys. Look at that creep spread. That is a lot of creep. A huge round of 11 drones are coming up right now. Speaking of drones, 71 to 55 Harvesters on the field right now. 86 now. Coming into that really nice number of about 80 to I would honestly say 70 to 80 is probably right about where you want to be. I wouldn't get more than 80, because then you start dipping into your army supply, which is actually fairly even with your harvester at this point. A little bit low, but that's not such a big deal. We do have a sensor tower coming up into that, around that natural somewhere. Well, it's got to be in the center. There it is. Sensor tower. Voila! Our Turban player is going to be getting his 2-2. Starting Sea Chain production and Widowline production at the same time, which is kind of a curious thing. I would much rather prefer him to see him go for one tech path and stick to one tech path, as opposed to going for both of them, because he won't have a whole lot in either one of them. Meanwhile, our Zerg player going really greedy here, taking a 5th base on his opponent's natural here. That's not really optimal. That being said, we do have Enduring Locusts coming out for those swarm hosts, as well as that +1 or +1/+2. And the Mutalisks are going to be kind of denied by this one Thor, but he kind of needs a little bit more, to be perfectly honest. I would love to see at least an additional Thor added onto this army to really force those Mutalisks back. And probably would love to see a couple of more missile turrets going to be laid down, because he can't afford it. And it would help against the Mutalisks skirting around to like the natural expansion. Or something like that. We have a drilling claws coming out on the way, which is the what makes the middle lines burrow faster, as well as the Corvid reactor, which increases the Raven starting energy by 75, I believe, as well as Terran building armor, which it helps the building armor. Meanwhile, Mutalisks are going to be going into this natural expansion, but there's quite a few missile turrets out here to try to take care of it, but not really gonna be able to do a whole lot. Justice has a lot of units here. He's even gonna be able to snipe the Thor, snipe a couple missile turrets, and oh no, now the Ravens are under attack. He needs to put a secret missile down if he really wants to get this to stop. So the Mutalisks is starting to kind of prove themselves as a kind of a scary unit, especially now that the Zerg player is coming up on his 5th base. And that is going to bring him up to 92 harvesters, which is a tad bit overdroned. Really would, I don't know, with this kind of style of play, getting overdroned isn't such a big deal, especially because once those swarm hosts hit the map. Okay, apparently it doesn't look like he's going to go for swarm hosts, or at least not yet, because it looks like he's going to be investing heavily into Mutalisks production. So we'll have to see if he indeed goes for that. Creep spread is going mad here, guys. We have lots and lots of creep spread going out. Really good on the Zerg part. That's one thing I think that the Zerg player is doing really well here, as well as keeping up on his bases, almost to the point of being greedy, actually. He's up on a 6th base now. The Terran player forced onto 3, but this is kind of proving the power of how 6 base economy can defeat 3 base economy if you're able to spend your resources well. With those Mutalisks overhead, I believe he has quite a few of those. That's a lot of Mutalisks. That's over 2 pages of Mutalisks, just kind of flying around here. There we're going towards this natural expansion, main base, excuse me. And really, there's not a whole lot of missile turrets here behind to trying to solve this. The Thor's even going to get sniped fairly quickly here. A couple one-mine shots are going to help thin these Mutalisks ball, but there's just so much damage done here, forcing the cancel on quite a few turrets there. And the Walrus is kind of in a comfortable position here because of the fact his opponent's on so many bases that he's able to throw not only a large amount of Mutalisk numbers at him and keep him kind of on that 3-base solution. And you kind of see this a lot with Swarm Host compositions. I keep saying with Swarm Host compositions, because I saw the Enduring Lotus, and I assume that the Swarm Host composition is going to be going on. But with large numbers of Mutalisks, large numbers of those into something else like Ultralisks or something along those lines, usually is meant to keep your opponent on your back foot while you get up onto your 6 bases. We see from Justice at this point, which is extremely helpful to his strategy, as the Ultralisks and Infestors and Mutas don't really necessarily end up being very cheap at all. Paladin Glen's about halfway down at this point, which means we're going to see Infestors come out of the field. And we are seeing 1-1 coming out rather late, actually, from Justice on his ground army. He is up on 2-2 for his air army. But it's kind of strange to see him just now getting his 1-1, especially considering he's running 7,000 minerals in that bank up there. Would love to see him kind of keep up with that, because that's kind of an important part. Lots of missile lots of wooden mines are going to be up on this in this main base to help kind of say no to the Mutalisks. And those are going to be pretty much repelled from the main base. But guys, we got to keep this in mind. Look at the economy. Actually, not really going to be that much of a difference. 85 to 64 in favor of our Zerg player, but with the powers of mules, that's going to be pretty well done. We do have a couple of additional. We do have a couple of additional command centers here, and probably going to be going for base there. But now here we come. We see the swarm host. And meanwhile, guys, just look at this creep speed. My gosh. That is a crazy amount of creep speed. Really well done, Justice. Jeez, that is a lot of creep speed. Creep spread. Oh my gosh. Can't believe I just said that. Meanwhile, we have 2-2 coming out, as well as 3-3 in the air for our Zerg player. He's going to be keeping up with these Mutalisks production, which I really disagree with. The fact that he already has quite a few Mutalisks, and then adding more onto them isn't necessarily a good thing, especially considering the fact that the Ultralisk Cavern is on the field for Ultralisk. He has Swarm Host coming out. He has the ability to get Infestors. I just feel like he has too much tech path. Then again, he is on 5K, 4K in resources. Here comes a Mutalisk coming, poking out, and going to be taking down a missile turret. Well, there are quite a few Widowmites here to kind of help defend this base. Meanwhile, we're going to be seeing the Walrus kind of engaging this Locust Swarm over here, but not really going to be able to do as much damage as he necessarily wants to. Justice is going to be sweeping around to try to go and see what he can do. A couple of shots are going to be going off of these. Mutants are going to get up on the Ravens, actually, which is not quite a good thing. We are already seeing quite a few point defense drones here, but no Seeker missiles are going to be coming down. Just going to be focusing on trying to keep those Ravens alive, which I completely agree with. 13 more Mutalisks are going to be macroed out at this point. Locusts are going to continue to attack the fourth base of Walrus, who is steadily but surely getting to the point where he's able to max out, adding on additional Ravens, and lots of other fun stuff. Meanwhile, we're seeing 2-2 going to be finishing up for our Zerg players, as well as that 3 in the air. Walrus going to be going on to additional Thors, going to be getting Ravens, and he's going to be getting a transformation service for his Hellions and Hellbats, as well as that Blue Flame, to kind of help a little bit with the AoE. A couple of good. Ooh, ow, ouch. Lots of good windmine shots are going to be coming up on the Zergling ball, or Mutaball, and actually at this point, Justice not even going to pull back, so I kind of feel like he's trying to sack these units right now to get as much damage as he wants to, but once again, he's going into more Mutalisk production. I'm not sure why he's doing this, because yeah, he has Mutalisks, but the mech army is, at this point, stacked out to deal with it. Ravens, Thors, Widowmines has the units that he needs to deal with the Mutalisk production, so I don't really understand why Justice is continuing with the Mutalisk production. I mean, it doesn't do anything with him, especially with a lot of Ravens with point defense drones on the map. Because these things literally are so good against the Mutalisks that it's just crazy. Meanwhile, the Mutalisks are going to be flying in here, going to be trying to do a little bit of damage, but not really going to be able to do as much damage as they want to, and this is the problem Justice is going to have. He needs to transition out of these Mutalisk production because his opponent is so prepared for the Mutalisks, and even now going to be switching into a few Infestors, but it's going to keep up the Mutalisk production, which I find questionable. Yeah, he's going to be able to do a little bit of damage here and there, but really, he's not going to do anything that will really affect the Walrus, and he can't directly engage the army. And the Terran player is kind of turtled up at this point, not really in a position where he can really take a lot of damage from Mutalisks. Like, he can take damage, I'm not going to say that, but he's not in a position where he's going to take a lot of damage. Meanwhile, we're seeing battlecruisers added onto the map. Oh, whoa. No, that's not... what? Yes. weapon refit. Where's that? Okay, here it is. Here it is, guys. Fusion core with a fusion core dance. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I'm not gonna put my camera on because I don't really. Yeah. Anyways, after that little tangent, we do have the battle cruiser coming up on the map. Durable materials coming up for the Raven auto turrets, and I believe the point defense drones as well. Yep, time duration of auto turrets and point defense drones, which is going to be an insane thing for Justice to do here, to have to deal with here, because point defense drones are going to be doing his worst enemy with the mutas, along with those seeker missiles placed really, really well. Walrus is deciding he wants to move out at this point, which is a pretty decent idea. I like the fact that he's trying to move out, but he just needs to be careful when he moves out that he doesn't run into his opponents. Quite a bit of locusts as well as mutalisks. However, we're going to be seeing a couple of infestors are going to be targeted by seeker missiles, which are going to take them out, which is a pretty good pickup from the Walrus here. And he is going to be kind of sieging up this base over here, but not really able to do a whole lot of damage here by itself, because the one tank they can fire on it is firing on it. Justice and Walrus. Justice is going to be going into 10k in the bank right now. He is not producing a single unit. That's just crazy. Noodles are going to be getting up on the siege tank, but here come the Ravens to help out, help lead the charge. And we're going to be seeing additional Mutalisks added on for Justice at this point, which it just seems overkill to me with the Mutalisks. It's not really doing anything to him for this at this point, really. Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what the whole plan is for him, because eventually the Terran army is just going to get too powerful for him's Mutalisks to be able to engage. And when it rocks across the map and you have massive units and you can't engage your opponent's army, you can't really do anything besides that. You can't do anything more than that besides going across the map and trying to base trade, which wouldn't necessarily turn out very well for Justice with the amount of just static defense that the Walrus has up on his side of the field right now. Justice is going to be moving out over here towards these siege tanks. Is going to get a few... Oh, he's going to get all the siege tanks. He's going to get quite a few of the minerals as Widow Mines as well. Meanwhile, the Terran player is going to drop a bunch of missile turrets over here in this base over here, and Justice is going to continue on his rampage, killing almost all of those siege tanks, which is going to make those locusts all the more powerful when they come in, because they don't have the defense that they need. Walrus going to be putting out an additional couple of siege tanks in order to kind of remedy that problem. Meanwhile, the Justice is going to be losing his base over here. He already lost his base over here, so now he's suddenly down onto 2.5, probably 3 mining bases. And yeah, he's going to have the locusts to kind of force his opponent back for a little bit. Once more siege tanks get on the field for Walrus, he's going to be in a pretty good position again over Justice. But let's keep in mind here, folks, he doesn't really have a lot of income. The Walrus doesn't. He's kind of running out of bases that he can go to with the fact of the creep spread. We're going to be seeing a base being taken back over here for Justice at this point. And the Mutalisks are, not Mutalisks, or the Swarm Hosts. And Swarm Hosts are going to be coming up onto the map as well for him. Or Locusts are going to be dropping down here. Meanwhile, Walrus is going to be grabbing up his battle cruisers, because what's mech play without battle cruisers, guys? Let's be honest. Justice is going to be remacking 25 Mutalisks at this point, guys. That's crazy. And once again, my problem with Justice's play is that he's committing so much to this Mutalisk play. He does have the Swarm Host, and he does have Infestors. I believe he still has Infestors. Yeah, he does have Infestors, but they're basically being used to support the Mutalisk ball, which I don't necessarily agree with, because Mutalisks are meant as a aggressive unit used to try to snipe, like Harvesters, snipe buildings and stuff like that. Snipe Colossus in PvZ, But here he's kind of just using them as a frontal unit, which isn't good for him when Walrus has pretty much everything that is good against Mutalisks. The Thors, the large amount of Ravens. And the only thing he's really missing is maybe a few Vikings tossed in here, and that would be just absolutely beautiful against those Mutalisks. As it is, a few Hunter Seeker missiles in the middle of that army will completely obliterate it. Justice is going to be taking on, again, with the Mutalisks here, trying to kind of starve his opponent out. I don't know. Walrus is going to be moving up and to try to take this expansion over here. Not take expansion. There's going to be a fungal growth coming up in the air on these Ravens, actually, which is going to be able to do quite a bit of damage. However, Walrus is going to be able to take out Swarm Hosts here, and the Mutals are sitting idle in the back of the base. That is not where he needs them to be. He needs to try to get the damage done on the army here, but that might just be a little bit more difficult. It's hard to see with the Mutalisks being on top of the army, but it looks like Walrus is winning the engagement here. Justice is going to be having to fall back here, and this is the problem, guys, when you commit too much to the Mutalisks. And yeah, now he does have Ultralisks going to be spawning out on the map, 14 of them. Yeah, with a couple of well-placed Hunter single missiles, those Ultralisks will be destroyed completely. Walrus even now going to be grabbing a few Vikings just to make sure that those Mutalisks are taken care of. Locusts are going to be spawning up over here, and I believe he has quite a few still over there to take that on. Meanwhile, he's going to clear away the creep over here so that he can take the expansion. At this point, Justice is now taking the expansion down here in the south. He's going to be going up on his 3-3, which is a really, really late 3-3, actually. That's really late. That's a 37-minute 3-3, guys. We're even seeing a Hydralisk Den added on at this point as well, which, honestly, I would much rather see Cracklings than Hydralisks against this build, because the Hydralisks, or the Lynx, will get up on the tanks and the Thors, and then the Thors are completely destroyed. And the tanks will be taken down, and so then he'll only have to worry about the Ravens, which he could take care of with a few Corruptors, I would have to say. Well, more than a few, because there's quite a few Ravens in the sky there. Meanwhile, Walrus is going to be kind of sitting up here, waiting for his base to be able to able to grab his base here. And the creep is slowly receding, and that will be taken by him fairly shortly here. Justice's additional base is about 3/4 of the way done. Guys, he's on 8k, 11k minerals, or 8 resources. He's not really unsure how to do this. Also, his army coming up on this army here. We are seeing the engagement. Ultralisks seem to be kind of winning at this point, but there are quite a few Thors here, and the Ultralisks are going to go down. Where are the Ravens at this point? Where are the Ravens at this point? Okay, they're over here to assault this base over here. Yeah, he doesn't really necessarily need 41 Mutalisks going to be added on for Justice at this point, and this is just kind of overkill, guys. I know I've been saying this like the entire game, but I don't like the fact that Justice is committing to the Mutalisks so much. We did see him switch over to Ultralisks and try an Ultralisk attack, but then he's back to the Mutas again, which clearly, we know from the Walrus, he has the units that he needs to take care of that. Hold on, I thought we were already seeing the Ravens engaged here from the Mutalisks in the middle of the map. Those Ravens need to get some Hunter Seeker missiles out on those Ravens here. Oh, he doesn't really have the energy, and all of those are going to go down. That is a good pickup from Justice, and a bad thing to have happen from the Walrus. However, he is going to get the base down here, which is going to be very big against the Zerg player, who's starting to run out of his minerals. With the fact of the constant remaxing of the Mutalisks. We're going to be seeing 56 Mutalisks on the field right now, guys. That's a lot of Mutalisks. That's a crazy amount of Mutalisks. And they're going to be going up in to engage this army here. Justice in a kind of a bad position here for the Widow Mines. And actually, the Thors are going to get quite a few bit of splash damage done on those Mutalisks. And suddenly, Justice is just going to keep losing the engagement. remaxing again with the 20 Mutalisks. And guys, I don't think the Mutalisks are working anymore. He needs to check switch into something else. If he wants to keep out the Mutalisks, I would suggest getting the adrenal glands and going for tons of cracklings and try to find an opening for them to be in, especially towards this base here. This base, well, I suppose there's a wood mines over here, but like getting into the main base and destroying some of the tech structures, like a couple of factories, maybe a starport, or even at this point getting the SCVs on this worker line, which is basically what's going to be Walrus's income for the next couple of minutes until he gets an additional base. I think cracklings would very much benefit him at this point. However, I don't think the Mutalisks in themselves are going to win him this game, and he doesn't really have a whole lot else. He does have the Swarm Hosts, which are constantly assaulting this base, but he's got that pretty much taken care of. Justice is even going up and engaging this army again, but this is a bad position for him to engage with. He cannot engage directly into the mech army. The Mutalisk will be taken down if he continues to do that. He needs to find something else to go into. Cracklings, maybe some additional Swarm Hosts. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe going to Broodlords might be a good idea. There aren't a whole lot of Vikings on the map, and a Broodlord Corruptor composition might be a pretty good idea to help take care of those Ravens and get some damage done. That's honestly what I would suggest at this point, guys, because even the Swarm Hosts on themselves, there's enough in this army to be able to take down Swarm Host numbers. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Justice is going to be going to come down to the main base, I think, with the Mutalisks here. Which is kind of strange because there's not really a whole lot in the main base right now. And even if he wanted to go in the main base, he can't go that way because that way is very much defended. Meanwhile, Walrus is not going to go back, which is kind of an interesting strategy. There are many Mutalisks on this map enough to be able to take out this base, and I'm not sure exactly why he's pulling back. Yeah, he's taking fire, and the mech army is slightly falling back, I guess. So we're going to be using Medivacs added onto the map. Why? I'm not sure why Medivacs are being added onto the map. Justice is going to be sieging out this base here with the Swarm Host, and he's up to quite a few, actually. We're up to 28 Swarm Hosts now, guys. But I don't honestly think these Swarm Hosts are going to be able to do the damage Justice wants. Yeah, they have a good DPS. They're on 3-3, but Walrus has the AoE to take care of them. And if he really wanted to, he can leave the siege tanks behind here and just go forward with his army after the spawning in the first round of spawning in goes out. Mules are going to try to go around the back and get a little bit of damage done, but once again, not really able to do that. Meanwhile, Justice is going to be continuously succeeding this base, and even now going to be going up on an additional 24 Mutalisks. I don't know. I don't know if the Mutalisks are really what he wants right now. And the Storm Hosts themselves, yeah, they're going to be able to kind of delay this game a little bit longer, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to be worth it. We are going to see the Medivacs used for dropping a couple of floors around to be able to take out bases, which is actually fairly effective. Meanwhile, Justice is going to be continuing to go forth here. Now, Walrus is going to say, nope, I've had enough, and move on with his units. No, apparently not. He's not going to do that. So, you have an additional base coming up from Justice down here. Going to be remaking that, which actually is the one base that he doesn't have right now. It's only on one mining base, because he's not really mining over here, or, yeah, I suppose he's mining over here for a little bit. Walrus is going to continuing to kind of turtle up here. I honestly don't know why. I guess it may feel a little bit threatened by the fact that there's both the Swarm Hosts and the Mutalisks on the map. But keep in mind here, folks, that the Mutalisks lose in a direct engagement. And yeah, they can run around and try to get a little bit of damage done, but it's a lot more helpful to Walrus if he stops the Swarmhost army. Meanwhile, we're seeing the Thorium drop back down again to stop this from coming back up. But as I was saying, the army counters Mutalisks, and really at any point he can move forward with the units he has and probably take out the Swarmhost line. And Justice isn't really able to do a whole lot with the army that he has. The Mutalisks get torn up in direct engagements, and yeah, they can move around and get a little bit of damage done, but not really the kind that will help him in this game. I mean, Walrus is up quite a bit on income, I believe. Yeah, 21 to 12 harvesters. And actually, Justice is going to be getting a little bit more than that. So, it's kind of strange. We are missing additional Ravens added onto this army. But at this point, Walrus could just move out. And at the very least, stop the Swarmhost line. If not, take on the Mutalisks as well. I'm not really sure exactly what he's waiting. There's not really a whole lot of timings that he needs to get. He might be waiting for his Ravens to hit the map first. But I would like to see him move out shortly, because he can't really afford to sit around for another 20 minutes. And he can definitely do something now. Mutalisk army coming up into this base over here, going to be doing a little bit of damage here. And by that I mean, of course, annihilate everything in the base over there. And they're going to be pretty much taken care of. Vikings are going to be pulled back, as well as a few Thors, to kind of deal with this. But the damage has been done from Justice, and the Swarmhosts are going to be getting up more as well. We do have a couple of Thesters just gotta hang it out at this point. Mutalisks are going to be coming back into this base again and trying to get a little bit more damage done. And he actually is going to fly directly into the army. Walrus could have gotten a really good pickup there. Justice kind of failing with his control there. Justice going to be poking in here and trying to do a little bit of here, a little bit there, but yeah, like I said, guys, he's not really doing enough. Justice really doesn't need to stop really focusing on the Mutalisks and move into something else, because Walrus has Mutalisks down to a knot. He knows he's able to get rid of them. No big deal. And now he's running out of units. Here a couple of Hunter Seeker missiles are going to go off over this entire Swarmhost line. Getting quite a few there. That's going to help a lot with defense. And those are going to be giving an additional couple of Hunter Seeker missiles on those. 3 more Swarmhosts are going to be going down here, which is going to cut down Justice's supply to 97. Walrus, if he moves out now, can get damage done. I've been saying this for a while now, guys, but it's true. He can. Justice doesn't really have a whole lot of units to be able to take care of this. And I mean, even keeping up on keeping this base down for Justice while he kind of gets rid of the Swarmhosts up front. I'm not really sure that there's much less that Justice can do at this point. He doesn't really have the resources. He can't establish a base. Walrus, he's just kind of sitting here, which I don't really understand why. Maybe he's afraid of the Swarmhosts, but there's not really a whole lot there. Maybe he's afraid of the Mutalisk counterattack? I'm not entirely sure at all what he's kind of trying to do here. He's just kind of baiting out the game a little bit more. Justice does have a base over here that's not mining, and actually doesn't have a few minerals over here in this patch up here, and a few over here. I don't know why he's not really saturating that, which is kind of curious why he keeps trying to take this base instead of saturating the base that he already has. Oddly curious. Walrus really doesn't even move out here. Swarmhosts are going to be continuing to attempt to do a slight amount of damage, and we here have additional. Never mind. Auditors are just going to completely die. And an additional base coming in from Justice once again at this expansion. But guys, he already has one up that he could just saturate. It'd be pretty easy, and it wouldn't be under fire from the Ravens. Walrus has kind of been sitting here doing nothing for quite a while now. I'm not sure what his plans are for this game, really. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure at all. We have 10 drones coming out on the map. And those are even going down to this new expansion. Yeah, there comes the GG from Justice. Okay, guys. What's one thing we can learn from this game? One thing I could tell you guys, as a player, is, first off, from the Zerg side of things, he stayed on muteless production way too long. I know I pointed that out during the cast, but it's a very important thing to point out. He stayed on the muteless production, and only the muteless production, for most of the game, which cost him quite a bit when Walrus started getting up his mech army with the Thors, the Ravens, to be able to counter that. So he was kind of behind as far as that goes. He was ahead in economy, he was ahead in everything else, but it's just composition just wasn't up to par. That being said, Walrus going for a pretty good composition, but he didn't really ever attack, and apparently he's gonna... We're just gonna pause that. Apparently he's gonna go over and kill the rest of the Swarm House when he gets back. So, Walrus doesn't need to attack. I think he should have attacked quite a bit there. It would have helped out quite a bit and kind of helped the game all along. But I guess in the end that he did win that. Yeah. So, I think that's all going to be all for today, guys. It's been ZookaMan, and we'll see you on the next cast.